Hey there everybody, today we're going to go over doing a flipper mechanism replacement on a Medieval Madness remake that's been on location almost 2 years, September 2017. It's seen a lot of plays, 14,500 plus plays, so the mechanisms have actually held up pretty well. The only issue I've really had out of it is on the left flipper here. The coil stop sheared off and took the nut with it, so I only was able to hold it with one just until I was able to get it back to do this replacement. But other than that, they've held up well, so we're going to replace the entire mech. So we're going to start on the left side. We're going to take off, desolder the wires to the coil and to the end of stroke switch right here. We will also remove the flipper from the top side. We'll loosen this and remove it through the top side and then take off the screws and be able to remove the entire mechanism. Now, if this was a home machine, you could just replace the parts that were needed or worn out, but since this is a location machine, we're going to go ahead and just replace the entire mechanism that you can get through Pinball Life. So let's begin. I checked the size of the two screws at the top just to make sure they would work with the drill. They do. They're 1/4 inch. You could also use a nut driver, which we'll probably have to do on the left-hand side to be able to free those because of the playfield rails. This point, we have the soldering iron out. We are going left-handed because of the angle of the camera and the coil that I'm working with. 680 degrees or so, and basically just add some heat and pull away from the coil lug, and there we go. That one's free. We just have to repeat the process a couple more times. Just add some heat, pull away, give it some time. You don't want to keep adding heat to it for too long, but once that solder bead melts, then you can usually pull those right away pretty easily. A little bit of a better angle with the second wire. And once we do this, it'll be simple to add them back once we add in the new mechanism and the new coil. They should just be able to fit right on. Add a little bit of solder and they'll fit right back to where they're supposed to be. So one more to go here, and again just adding heat, waiting for the bead to melt, and then we pull away and it's loosened, and pretty much just like that, there we go. Same process here that we used on the coil. We're going to get the wires out of the way from the coil so we can get to these cleanly. Same process, add a little heat, pull away. These aren't as thick of wires, so they'll come out pretty easy, so we just add some heat, pull away, and there we go. Let's fast forward through the video here with the screws coming out from the mechanism from the bottom of the playfield. And also, while we're doing this, it wasn't easy to get the drill underneath the playfield rails on the left-hand side, so we had to switch it up a bit, but that's okay. Side note, while we were doing this, you also need to remember to remove the flipper from the top side of the playfield. That's also okay. We loosen up that nut, and we're able to pull it out of the top, and then continue with the other two screws to be able to free up the rest of the mechanism. With the last two screws holding everything in place, let's remove those, and the entire mechanism is now free. So we can set that to the side and go get our brand new one to start reattaching it to the underside of the playfield. And here's the brand new assembly from Pinball Life. We'll speed this video up as well just a bit to see the attachment to the underside of the playfield. We'll finger tight a couple of screws in just to make sure everything lines up properly. Once we get that done, then we can also start soldering everything back into place and making sure all the alignments match up. Okay, now that we have a couple of screws attaching everything tightly, we can start soldering back the wires to the coil. It's a good note to make sure the orientation before you remove them. Take a picture, take some notes. These wires were already tinned from before, so it's going to make it a little bit easier to add these back. They're not fresh wires. Add a little solder, heat them up, and they're attached. We'll take the same approach here with the end of stroke switch that we did with the coil. These wires were also already tinned, so we just put them in the proper place, add a little bit more solder, and make sure that everything is nice and snug, and we're good to go. Now the screws are back in, we can attach the flipper from the top of the playfield and tighten it back down just as test fit for now until we get everything else done. Okay, now that we're done with everything else, we can check the end of stroke switch. On this era of Williams machines, They went with a normally open end of stroke switch, which means the contacts do not touch until the flipper engages. So that looks pretty good right there. Also, the flipper is feeling pretty free. It's not binding on the coil stop, so we're done with the left-hand side. Well, that about does it, so hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe.